Okay, great, thank you. And I think you need to start the webinar because we're still in practice session, which I think all right, I'm back. Are we live and streaming? I can't hear you. You're on mute. Okay, let me screen share. All right. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is our December 2nd update. I'm Kristen Nevedal. I'm the director of the Mendocino County Cannabis Department. With me today, I have Trish Tracy, who will be assisting us with all things streaming and getting the slides posted and kind of taking the reins from Nina for these meetings. So thanks, Trish, for helping us out this morning. We're going to give folks a few minutes to get checked into this morning's meeting. So what I'd like to do is just give people 2 more minutes and then we'll go ahead and we will start promptly at 8:35. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Kristen Nevedal. I'm the director of the County of Mendocino Cannabis Department. And this is the December 2nd department update meeting. We're joined today by Trish Tracy. And we are glad to have her come on board and join our department. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Today's agenda, we'll look at some important dates. We'll do a staffing overview followed by a brief overview of RFQ progress. We'll talk about the much anticipated California Department of Fish and Wildlife Sensitive Species Habitat Review contract. We'll provide an application review update, some discussion about state licensing timeline, and then a fallowing update. And then after all of that, we'll go to Q&A. A reminder about how to participate in today's meeting. You have a couple of options. If you're utilizing the Zoom app today, you can use the Q&A chat feature, which is located in your toolbar, generally either at the bottom or the top of your screen. If you'd like to leave a comment or a question, those comments or questions go to panelists only, which is Trish and I today. And so we would be able to see those questions and comments. And in order to activate that feature when using the Zoom app, you just simply click on the dialog box, like the dialog symbol that says Q&A under it. That'll open up a separate screen where you can type your question or your comment to Trish and I, and then we can do our best to respond to you. Probably because of today's format and the fact that I'm still not on a desktop, due to some technical glitches, I don't have a lot of ability to see the slides and read Q&A at the same time. So we probably will not be able to get into Q&A questions until the end of the presentation. I apologize for that. But we'll also be offering a time at the end of the presentation today for oral comments, which you can make by raising your hand or get into the queue to make by raising your hand. And that raise hand feature, if you're on the Zoom app, is still in the same toolbar as where you'll find the Q&A chat. It is just a hand, looks just like a hand. And then if you just click on that, it'll go ahead and raise your hand. You click it again, it will lower your hand. If you're calling in today, you can use *9 on your phone, and that will raise your hand or lower your hand for you. When we get to the time in the meeting where we do go to discussion and offer an opportunity for oral comment, once it's your turn in the queue to comment, you'll be asked to unmute your device, which you can do if you're on the Zoom app by clicking the microphone icon in the left-hand side of your toolbar. And if you are calling in, you can unmute and remute your device using *6. And don't worry about remembering these. We'll put these up at the end of the presentation as well. So there'll be another reminder about how to participate. Some notable dates. It's December 2nd today. So yesterday on December 1st and running through December 31st, applicants and permit holders can file their 2023 notice of fallowing, meaning you file now for any fallowing you want to do in the 2022 cultivation season. And please do be mindful that the filing period closes on December 31st. And it's the last day you can file for fallowing for the 2023 season. And then on December 2nd, that's today, we'll have our update. Next Friday, we'll be having a local jurisdiction assistance grant program application review meeting. So it's really no updates will be provided at next week's meeting. We will be focusing solely on the LJAGP direct grant application. On December 12th, we will be participating in the General Government Committee meeting in the Board of Supervisors chambers. That meeting will start at 1:30 p.m. And go until it's completed. On December 21st, from 3:30 to 5 p.m., we'll be hosting our monthly LEAP meeting. And I apologize to everyone that this week's meeting was not streamed. As I mentioned, for those of you who were able to join this week's meeting, we will be offering another tour of the online application portal system for LEAP applicants, and we'll be offering another kind of tour of the receipts and budget reconciliation app that has been developed. We're hoping that we'll be able to do that at the December 12th meeting if the developer is available. If not, we will get back to that. I'm sorry, December 21st meeting. And if we can't get the developer to join us for the December 21st meeting so that we can get a recorded presentation, we will push into January for that topic. So can't release the agenda yet for the LEAP monthly meeting, but we will be meeting for sure on December 21st. And we'll let you know as soon as we possibly can what our plan is for that December 21 LEAP meeting. A notice for folks, we will be closed. Our counter will be closed from December 23rd to January 6th. Some of this period of time is to observe the holidays, and then in between holidays and that January 6th date, we'll be focusing on staff training. So really just getting ourselves trained up and prepared for the new year. And then January 16th through February 10th is when we'll see the local jurisdiction assistance grant programs direct grant application submission open for the first time. So just some important dates for everyone to be aware of as we look forward to the new year. All right, as many of you know, we have moved to Willits. Our new location is at 125 East Commercial Street. We are on the second floor of the Willits Justice Center, upstairs from the Willits Police Department. We have the same phone number, so nothing's changed there. We have the same email addresses. So please do continue to use mcdpod@mendocinocounty.org for application, permitting, and cannabis planning related questions and communications. And then we also still have cannabis program at mendocinocounty.org. This email address is best used for general inquiries and for grant related questions and communications. Due to our move, we've also transitioned into new counter hours, which will be effective as of Monday. So we will not have staffing available for Monday and Friday window hours. So if you can't make it in and need to come into the department for some reason, and you can't do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, you will have to make an appointment for Monday or Friday so we can ensure that we have staff here to greet you and assist you. And then we've expanded our hours for Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So we will be available to serve the public at our counter on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from 9 to noon and then 1 to 4 p.m. A notice about our holiday hours. We will be closing for, as I mentioned earlier, for the winter holidays starting December 23rd and all the way through January 6th. So please just do be mindful of upcoming closures. Let's see here. All right. Quick staffing update. This is the staffing that we currently have to date. There's 14 of us working over here at the Cannabis Department. We have allocations for 22, and we are currently recruiting for the positions that are listed on this table as vacant. We're really excited to be in Willits. Part of not staffing up more in Ukiah was we literally had run out of offices several months ago. So we're here, we have plenty of space, we have furniture coming, and we are actively recruiting. So that's pretty exciting. We're hoping to go into the new year with, hopefully soon into the new year with a full staff. A brief update about the RFQ for cannabis planning services. Just a reminder, we opened that RFQ on June 17th, closed it on July 22nd of 2022. We received 5 submissions that in September were reviewed, and then we began working on contract negotiations. Some of the contract negotiations, in order to manage the contract negotiations, is what I should say, we also have been working closely with County Council to address any potential conflict of interest issues that may restrict or restrict the ability for us to work with contract planners and to assist us with wrapping up contract negotiations. So I do feel like we're getting close, and we do anticipate bringing contracts to the board the early part of 2023. I know we had hoped to bring the contracts back to the board in the month of December, but with the holidays and responses from the entities that we're working with to negotiate contracts, we did not get amendments or responses to the contracts we had put out until very recently. So it is going to push into the new year. All right, some updates about the CDFW, Sensitive Species Habitat Review Contract. And we've been getting lots of questions about this, and rightfully so. So as many of you know, just about a year ago in February of 2022, the county began working with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife staff to negotiate a contract for sensitive species habitat reviews, and basically for the referrals that result from the department's review. So in July of 2022, because those negotiations were still ongoing, the cannabis department was notified by a CDFW staff that they would be pausing all sensitive species habitat reviews until such time as we had finalized and executed the contract that was underway. The contract was challenging to negotiate and manage. California Department of Food and Agriculture as the state agency has a boilerplate template that they like to work with that's approved by General Services Association or Administration. And what we saw them present to the county was a contract that essentially treated California Department of Fish and Wildlife as the entity contracting the county and then swapped the payment terms in the schedule. This led us to request amendments and kind of drag that timeline out, trying to figure out how to proceed. And so finally on September 26th, we did receive a final contract from CDFW that County Council signed off on here locally. And then on October 18th, the board did approve that contract or agreement. On October 27th, the contract was executed by all parties. And last week on November 22nd, CDFW resumed work on the sensitive species habitat review. I do know, and I want to just acknowledge that a lot of folks have asked questions about how it will work with CDFW since the contract that we signed and executed on October 27th actually expired on November 2nd. I just want to say rest assured, we have commitment from CDFW to continue working on sensitive species habitat review referrals while we work through the next contracting period with DFW staff. So they are working, they're not planning on stopping work. And what we're waiting for right now is to hear back from CDFW about whether or not we can retroactively amend the contract we have currently with the agency that just expired, or if we need to just take that contract and create a new one based on the agreed upon language with a new date timeline, so to speak. So I think we'll be able to wrap that up pretty quickly, but when we talked to DFW in November last week, they didn't have the answers to those questions. We are meeting with them regularly on a weekly basis until we get to a place where we have the answers, we have the contracts moving forward, and we have restarted and gotten the referrals moving forward in a streamlined and smooth manner. Some information about deprioritization. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. It is repeat from several meetings ago, but just a reminder that on May 17th of 2022, the County of Mendocino Board of Supervisors did direct department staff to prioritize the processing of applications that have active Department of Cannabis Control licenses and have paid any associated local cannabis business tax. So what we did upon receiving that directive is reach out to the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office, referenced here as the TTC, and received lists of delinquent tax, lists of folks with delinquent taxes. We started reconciling those with our AG numbers internally. In June, we did send deprioritization notices to folks who had delinquent taxes and or DCC compliance deficiencies that had submitted into the 2022 corrections portal. In July, we sent first deprioritization notices to folks who were listed with the status of in good standing, so applicants with the status of in good standing. And then in October, we did a blanket notification of all applicants and permit holders, regardless of their status, letting them know that they were deprioritized due to delinquent taxes and or DCC compliance deficiencies. Just so folks are aware, we are planning to do second or in some cases what will be third notices, and in some cases what will be first notices in the coming week. So I think next week we'll see a whole nother round of deprioritization notices go out. We have had folks reprioritize, but we also had licenses that expired in the month of November that were not renewed, that now, as people reprioritized, we also had people who now are deprioritized for the first time because they didn't renew their state license. So just a little heads up, we'll be sending another round of deprioritization notices next week. And here's what the numbers look like, just building off of what we presented in our last meeting. Originally, we were working with, let's see here, I need to shrink this so I can see the whole table. Sorry about that. Originally, we were working with 863 active application and permits, of which 590 were deprioritized. And what we saw originally was that we had 428 applicants or permit holders with delinquent taxes, and some of them also had DCC license compliance. So we had a total originally of 412 that had DCC license compliance issues. And I just want to remind the public, as you're looking at this table, delinquent taxes and DCC license compliance issues is not supposed to add up to the number shown in the total deprioritization column. What we have going on with the applicants and the permit holders in this deprioritization program is that some have just delinquent taxes, some have just DCC license compliance issues, but the vast majority have both going on, both reasons for deprioritization. So I know a lot of folks look at this and they're like, the numbers don't add up, but they aren't supposed to. It's really trying to create a transparent opportunity to see what the rate of delinquent taxes are and what the rate of licensing issues are that are causing deprioritization. So as I mentioned, we sent kind of mass notices to everyone who was active that was subject to deprioritization in October on the 28th. The next line shows us changes that had happened between the 28th and the 7th. Third line is going to show us changes that happened between, the 28th and 11/17 or the 17th of November. And then the fourth line in each of these boxes shows us what the numbers looked like yesterday. So as of yesterday, we had 815 active applicants and permit holders. And we have experienced quite a few withdrawals. So we've had quite a few folks withdraw, whether they were applicants or permit holders, were experiencing withdrawals kind of increasingly in both applicant and permit holder pools. So out of the 815 active applications and permits that we currently have, there are 320 applicants that have delinquent taxes, 272 applicants and permit holders with DCC licensing compliance issues. And out of that 815 active permits and applications in-house, over 50% of them are deprioritized currently. So when we look at how it breaks down for issued permits, we've seen the most recovery, I think, in the issued permit realm. We have 243 issued permits currently that we're counting. We have 56 of those have delinquent taxes, 69 of them have licensing issues, for a total of 92 of our permit holders being deprioritized. Applications, we just break out the application pool. There's 572 active applications in the county. 264 applicants have delinquent taxes. 202 applicants have DCC license compliance issues. And we're seeing a significant deprioritization rate in our applicant pool, well over 50%, as 329 of our 572 active applications are deprioritized currently. A little update about the In Good Standing portal. Just a reminder that we did open this In Good Standing portal on November 1st in partnership with Informational Services, and that it will remain open until 11:59 p.m. on January 31st. You can find more information about the In Good Standing portal by visiting the county's website and then going to the cannabis program page, which you can find by clicking through from that homepage of the county's site to cannabis program. If you click on the departments tab in the upper header, and then we have a cannabis application portal system page where there's lots of great information, including a couple of videos about how to navigate the portal, a portal checklist so you know what application materials are going to be asked for in the portal, and a list of folks who should be submitting their applications through the portal. Right now, we've got 122 in good standing applications that should be coming through that portal system. Out of those 122 in good standing applications, 55 are currently deprioritized. 38 of the 122 have delinquent taxes and 50 have DCC compliance issues. So as folks submit through the portal, and we've only had 6 submissions so far, as folks do submit through the portal, we're looking up those folks to see if they're on the deprioritization list. If they have both delinquent taxes and licensing issues, we're just going to set those applications aside. If they have just DCC compliance issues, we'll open up that application submission and see if we can remedy that DCC compliance issue by having hopefully received a valid state license. So in some of these reviews of the 6, folks received notices saying that they were reprioritized and also needed to submit additional information, for example. So that's how that's working, just in brief. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the next few slides, as I think we've talked about it quite a few times, and I know there's going to be some Q&A that folks will really want to get into. So a reminder, right? Again, please, if you have questions about the In Good Standing portal, how to get into it, how to navigate it, whether or not you should participate in it, I really encourage applicants and their agents, members of the public who don't understand whether this applies to them or not, to please visit our website. You can start by going to www.mendocinocounty.org, clicking on the departments tab in the header, going through to cannabis department, and then we have a cannabis application portal page. And on that page, you'll find the registration and the login for the portal. But these slides will also be made available with links in them, so you can pull them off of our website, the 2022 events page, if this is more helpful than kind of searching through the website. A reminder about who should use the In Good Standing portal. So really all applicants that we've assigned and or have an in good standing status should submit complete applications through the portal. Even if you are deprioritized, this is your moment to complete that application. So please, just a reminder, if you are assigned to or have been identified as needing to submit through the In Good Standing portal and you are deprioritized, you should still submit through the portal so that we have complete application materials to review when you manage to become reprioritized, if that's your intention. Folks who cannot submit through the portal. So we get a lot of questions from applicants who completed their application, their portal submission in 2021 or 2022. You don't have to come back through the portal. If we sent you a complete notification, this portal is not for you. Applicants who have been issued a permit, so annual permit holders, do not need to come through this portal. You cannot renew through the portal, and there's no ability to start a new application in the portal. So no phase 3 applications, no nursery add-ons, no modifications, etc. It is just for the folks who have been identified as needing to come through this portal. It's all applicants. They either have the in good standing status, or we ask them specifically to come through the portal for one reason or another and have been in communication with those kind of one-off individuals, so to speak, to make sure that they know to get their materials into us. A reminder of how the review process works. So as I mentioned, we did receive 6 submissions on the first transition of material or transfer of material from the portal to MCD staff. We have reviewed all 6 of those submissions and responded to those applicants whose portal permits in the portal will be unlocked on December 5th so that they can submit corrections. At the same time, on December 5th, we will receive submissions from anyone who submitted between November 14th and December 5th, right? And then folks who we receive submissions from on December 5th will review those, will notify you of the status of your in good standing application, and then we'll be reopening the portal should you need to make corrections on December 19th. So in every 2 weeks, we receive materials and we unlock for people who we've already reviewed and need to submit corrected materials. So this goes on through the end of January, but it's important to note that as we work through the 2-week cycle, you have to submit before January 2nd so that we can review and unlock you on January 16th if you're going to make corrections before the end of the year or before the end of January when the portal closes. So again, if you don't submit by January 2nd of 2023, you will not have an opportunity to make corrections. So that's an important component to be mindful of. A little update on what we're working on, what we've got our planners working on. So we currently have 153 renewal applications in-house, and our planning staff of about 9 are working on 104 of those renewals. And then we have several modification applications that we received, 29 of them to be specific, and 14 of those are under review because they've been coupled or paired with the renewal application that is also under review. Currently, we have 34 Appendix G checklists that we've received, and we don't have any of them under review. There might be some anomalies in what I'm saying about not having any of them under review. There are 2 or 3 that were previously assigned to planners that they will be picking up and folding into this review, but those are not counted in the waiting queue. So I know some of you are like, oh my gosh, get back to my Appendix G. I was so close. Those are assigned out, those, less than a handful of Appendix G checklists that folks did submit quite a while ago and that we've been working through slowly. I did put those couple back on planners' plates. But for the most part, we have 34 in the queue for review, and we have not assigned any of those as referenced in previous meetings. Just a reminder of what's going on with provisional licenses at the state level. So in order for folks to be eligible to renew their provisional license on or after July 1st of 2023, if that applicant has not completed CEQA, they will need to provide, or the department will be asked to provide a determination to enough information to DCC that DCC can determine that in this instance with cultivators in Mendocino County, that a checklist which demonstrates consistency with a previously circulated and adopted MND is complete, right? That it's been deemed complete. We're having pretty robust conversations with the state right now about exactly what this is going to look like. And what we're advocating for is that those checklists are deemed complete in our term from the administrative review perspective where folks currently send us their checklist. We review it to see if it's formatted properly, if all sections are filled out, if all of the checkboxes were answered yes, right? If we have the information we think we need to actually start conducting a review and the proper formatting. And they've also submitted the supplemental materials in a single PDF with a table of contents with page numbers and with the documents reflected and necessary to have the supplemental materials to support the review of that Appendix G document. If all of those things match up, we deem that Appendix G complete, and then we put it into the queue of 34 that I mentioned just a moment ago to be assigned for review. So this is what we're advocating to the state, that on or after July 1st, we just need that complete checklist for the state to allow for that renewal based on CEQA compliance. But there are some additional pieces that I think are important for folks to be aware of that could impact their ability to renew on or after July 1st of 2023. And one of them is elevated requirements for fish and wildlife. So on or after July 1st of 2023, you will also need to show that you have received your final lake or streambed alteration agreement from Fish and Wildlife, or that you received that draft LSAA from Fish and Wildlife, you signed it and you've returned it to Department of Fish and Wildlife, right? Or you'll need to be able to show written verification by the DFW that an LSAA is not needed. This literally may be a verification noticing no LSAA is needed for this project. It might be an operation of law letter. This is an elevation in DFW requirements in that on or after July 1st of 2023, a completed notification will not be enough information for you to qualify for a provisional license renewal. So really, I feel like from looking at applications, we tend to still see a lot of folks that haven't made it into the final or even draft LSAA step yet for their fish and wildlife compliance. So I just want folks to be mindful that this could impact your ability to renew your provisional license. Additionally, the Department of Cannabis Control is not supposed to renew a provisional license on or after July 1st of 2023 if they are notified by the State Water Resource Control Board and or the Department of Fish and Wildlife that the applicant for provisional license renewal is not in compliance with the cannabis programs that are that regulate cannabis cultivation in the state. So specific to the water boards again and Department of Fish and Wildlife. So if you have violations and if you have deadlines pressing, say to conduct work projects for your State Water Resource Control Board permit and or your Department of Fish and Wildlife Lake or Streambed Alteration Agreement, please make sure you're managing those timelines or asking for extensions where necessary so you don't find yourself in the place of a violation, which again could hinder your ability to qualify for provisional license renewal on or after July 1st of 2023. So with all of this in mind, we've had a lot of questions about how we're going to manage the review of our applications that we have in-house. And this is not just new applications or applications that have not yet had a permit issued. This is also applicable for renewals. So what we're really looking at here is making sure that we focus on timing our application review and making sure that the renewals are tidied up in a manner that qualifies folks for provisional license renewal. So because we have environmental regulations elevating on July 1st of 2023, our priority here at the Cannabis Department is to review based on the timeline that you are subject to your renewal at the state. So our first priority is going to be reviewing and working with applicants who are scheduled to renew their provisional license in July of 2023. And as we work through those applicants, we'll then move on to those applicants and permit holders that are scheduled to renew their provisional license in August of 2023. Then we'll move on to the next group, which are those who are scheduled to renew their provisional license in September of 2023, so on and so forth. A reminder about fallowing. I know we said this a little bit earlier, but we're going to just say it again. Now is the time to file your notice of fallowing if you plan on fallowing during the 2022 cultivation season. So we're currently accepting notices of fallowing all the way until December 31st. So as of 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on December 31st, the notice of fallowing filing period for 2023 will close and it will not reopen. So if you think you're going to fallow in 2023, please file your notice this month. We cannot accept them after the new year or as we get into the new year. But if you file a notice of fallowing and then you decide you're not going to fallow in the 2023 cultivation season, you can retract that notice of fallowing. So I really encourage folks, if you think at all, you have any thoughts that you think you might want to fallow, please file the notice in December of this year for the 2023 cultivation season. And then if you are inspired to plant in the spring or sometime in the 2023 cultivation season, you must, and you can, right? You would be required to retract that notice of fallowing before you plant for 2023. And then wrapping up the filings for the 2022 fallowing season, that has a next step that folks who filed notices of fallowing when it was open for the 2022 cultivation season, you're going to have to submit an affidavit, which we'll post to the website between January 1st of 2023 and February 1st of 2023. So we'll be doing some outreach to those folks that are in that fallowing pool for 2022 and make sure that they are aware of the affidavit, but also you can watch the website. The affidavit will be posted as soon as we get the paperwork from County Council, but it is a two-step process. So again, we'll be wrapping up the 2022 fallowing notice of fallowing paperwork that we received by requiring that those folks submit a 2022 fallowing affidavit in the month of January in 2023. If you don't complete an affidavit, so say you filed a 2022 notice of fallowing, but you don't complete an affidavit, we will retract your notice of fallowing and you will be liable for the 2022 taxes on the full cultivation site. All right. This gives us some time to get through Q&A. We're at 9:13. Our meeting does go to 10. I've got 13 questions in the Q&A feature. I want to just remind folks how to participate. You can use the Q&A feature by clicking what says Q&A with a little chat icon over it. It is in your toolbar. So if you're on the Zoom app, you can use your Q&A chat feature in the toolbar to leave us a question or type in a comment. I'm going to go to those first, and then we'll intermix written questions with oral responses and questions. There is a raise hand feature in that same toolbar. So for those of you on the Zoom app, the way to get into the queue to make an oral comment or ask a question, you can use that raise hand feature. And if you're calling in today and you're not on the Zoom app, you can raise your hand to get into the queue for oral comments by dialing *9. When it is your turn to make an oral comment or ask a question, you will be asked to unmute your device. If you're in the Zoom app, you can mute and unmute your device by clicking on the microphone that says mute and unmute. It is also in the toolbar or the features bar with the Q&A chat feature and the raise hand feature. If you're calling in today and you're asked to mute or unmute your device, you can use *6 on your keypad to do so. Okay, I'm going to leave that up. Let's see if I can get the Q&A panel open. The department is not planning on sticking with weekly meetings. We will not be resuming weekly meetings, but we will be having regular meetings. So we have a lot going on in the month of December as we work with the public, not only to provide an update, but also to make sure that folks have ample time to review with department support the LJAGP grant application. So we'll be hosting update meetings. The department will on a monthly basis, and it will be the first Friday of each month. So think odd numbers going forward in 2023. First Friday of each month is going to be the department update, and the third Wednesday of each month will still be the equity meeting, the LEAP equity meeting. Question why the deadline is December 31st for the following notice. The reason why the deadline is December 31st for the following notice is because the taxes that run for cultivation in Mendocino County are calendar year start to calendar year end. So the ordinance was written to include notice of fallowing that is submitted before we enter into the next taxable year. So it really is based on the taxable year timeline. And again, the timelines are in the ordinance, so the department doesn't have the ability to change them or expand them. The ordinance is what the ordinance is. So we are just observing the deadlines or the timelines that are in the ordinance that was passed by the Board of Supervisors. What will we be training staff on in January, and how many staff will we be training? We will be training all planning staff and some of, we'll be training all staff is what I should say. So in the planning realm, all of our planners will be moving forward with training on completing an initial application review for issuance. We are also going to be diving into sensitive species habitat review training. This is one of the things that we're working on with Fish and Wildlife so that we can meet the board directive, the recent board directive, to ensure that that our reviews aren't resulting in over referral. So we'll really be focusing some time, likely in December, on those staff trainings for planners, but also we are hoping to create a more robust grant management platform or staffing scenario in-house here. So we'll be looking at some grant tracking and grant management and grant reporting trainings that will be occurring, and also service training. So how do we interact with the public? And in January, we're hoping to be full steam ahead with Acela implementation. So we're anticipating having trainings around the transition to Acela, how to manage the data for that transition, so on and so forth. So yeah, we will be working on trainings for both renewals and annual permits. Currently, renewals are very much so similar to applications for annual permits, since the vast majority of the renewals that we are receiving are for permittees that were issued their permits without environmental review. So we're just going to continue layering on the trainings that we've conducted to ensure that we can adequately manage the applications that we have in-house, whether they're renewal or annual permits. Additionally, all of our planning staff is currently taking a CEQA certification course offered by University of California, Santa Barbara. That course wraps up at the end of December 2022, and then we'll be able to build upon that course for Appendix G training. So a little detail there on what we've got going on with trainings. Question about when DFW SSHR will actually start. It started. So it started when we talked to Fish and Wildlife last week. There were a number of comments and or referrals that were in the queue that got hung up in that July stop work timeline. So DFW is currently wrapping up those, and then we're putting together some protocols. We'll be meeting again this week, getting an update on how reviews are going with what was in the queue, and then we'll be moving forward with adding reviews to the queue. And we don't know what the cost is yet because at this time we haven't received an invoice from Department of Fish and Wildlife to actually be able to create a cost estimate around how much each referral or review is going to cost. So I apologize there, but as soon as we have some cost estimate, we'll be bringing that forward because we do not have the cost of sensitive species habitat review built into our phase 3 application cost because we didn't have the data. So we will be bringing for phase 3 applications, and I'm emphasizing phase 3 applications, right? We'll be bringing forward eventually, probably in July of 2023, fee schedule for sensitive species habitat review. So we have some work to do there, but I don't have enough information to even provide an estimate at this time. Have we been able to get a records request in Form DCC for a current license list? No, and we're not terribly concerned with receiving that right now. We do need to have your license on file. And once we have your license on file, we can search that license number. So regardless of whether or not DCC is easily going to provide us with a list of all current licenses, applicants are responsible for providing their license to us so that we always have a copy of their current license on file. So we are not pursuing a list at this time. So if you already had your sensitive species habitat review and you haven't changed your cultivation site, especially you haven't expanded or changed the type of cultivation site you've done or the type of cultivation you were conducting, and you've fully completed your sensitive species habitat review, the contract negotiations that has been going on is not going to impact the comments you've already received from DFW or the notice you've already received from the county and Mendocino planner. So if you're done with sensitive species habitat review and you haven't made any changes, which could trigger a re-referral perhaps, you don't need to really worry about the contract negotiations that occurred and the new contract that we're working on with DFW because it won't change what we've already finalized for you. And let me pop open our participants and just get a grip on, we've got a few folks with their hands raised. So I'm going to do just a couple more questions and then we'll start filtering in folks with their hands raised. We appreciate all of our participants, applicants, permit holders as well. So thanks for the staff appreciation that came in. We do appreciate that very much so. So kind of a little bit of confusion around the fallowing, right? So if the fallowing deadline is December 31st, but we're closed until January 6th, shouldn't we change the fallowing deadline? So again, both the notice of fallowing timeline, right, and the affidavit timeline are in the ordinance. They're in the ordinance, we can't change them. We don't need to be open for counter service for you to email us a fallowing notice. So a notice of fallowing, email the notice of fallowing in the month of December for the 2023 cultivation season. You can email that to MCD POD. We will be working, so folks will be able to respond to your emails, except for from December 23rd through December 26th, those are days where most of my staff, if not all of my staff, is off. Christmas is on the 24th and the 25th this year, which is a Saturday and a Sunday. And then the county is observing December 26th as a holiday for all county employees. So outside of that weekend, so to speak, that long weekend, that Saturday, Sunday, and that Monday around Christmas, staff will be working, but we will not be opening the counter. So please do know that we recommend that in order to file your notice of fallowing for the 2023 cultivation season, that you email that notice of fallowing with the site plan showing all areas fallowed to MCD POD. And with the affidavit for those who fallowed in 2022, that affidavit needs to come in the month of January. That can be emailed to us as well. And we prefer that you email both the fallowing notice and if you need to send a fallowing affidavit, those materials should be emailed to mcdpod@mendocinocounty.org. If you use the cannabis program email address, because it's what you're used to, rest assured it will get to the right spot. Whole slew of questions about district attorney reviews. How long does it take? I don't know that I have the answer to any of these questions off the top of my head here today. We can send DA reviews in on a weekly basis. So they do go out as frequently once a week as needed, regardless of how many reviews we have. So if it's one review, we send it. If it's 20 reviews, we send it. But we do have a schedule of sending any reviews in the queue once a week. I'm not sure who over in the DA's office is conducting the reviews of the live scans, but it does take generally a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks for us to get the information back. And that's largely dictated, that timeline is largely dictated by how much the DA's office has on their plate and how many reviews we sent. So we send 10 or 15 reviews and it might take 3 to 4 weeks. We send 1 or 2, it's likely to come back sooner. So it's a little bit of a challenging question. And let's see, if an applicant has an approved SSHR, an issued LSAA, an approved AQMD, an approved MCD farm inspection, and the DA's blessing on their live scan, can the applicant then submit their Appendix G and their project description? And the answer is no, not until they have been issued a permit. But once they've been issued a permit, then yes, they can submit their Appendix G. And the project description must be in that Appendix G document. So they would be submitting their Appendix G, which includes the project description and a second document of their supplemental materials. Any questions about what to submit for your Appendix G paperwork, please do visit the Cannabis Department website and go to the CEQA page. Okay, I would like to go through and start with some folks who have their hand raised because we're getting quite a few folks in the queue. So I'm going to switch my screens here for a moment and I'm going to put up a timer, I think. Let me see if I can make this all work. I think we can go ahead and do a time check. I am going to leave these on 1 minute because we got a heck of a lot of questions and I do want to make sure that I have some time to respond to folks. So I'm going to leave the timer at 1 minute. I have to do a little more maintenance here. And we are going to start with Stuart Marcus, followed by Hannah Nelson and then Katie Jean. So Stuart, you should be able to go ahead and unmute your device and start your question or your comment. And Stuart, we can't hear you. So would you be so kind as to unmute your device and start your question or your comment?
I think that,
there we go.
I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize, but On my phone, I accidentally hit the button. I didn't mean to request.
Okay, so should I go ahead and lower your hand, Stuart?
Yes, please. I apologize.
Okay. No apologies necessary. We'll take care of that. Thank you. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Hannah, I accidentally removed your permission to talk and lowered your hand, but you are next in our queue. Oh, shoot. Let me see here. I need to find you again. So bear with me, Hannah. I'm almost there. There you are. Thank you for raising your hand again. I appreciate that. So Hannah, we're going to hear from you, followed by Katie Jean and then Paul Hansberry. So Hannah, you should be able to go ahead and start your comment or your question.
Thanks. Sorry for rapid fire here. When will the following affidavit be actually posted? It's important for people to know when that will be. Can you update the MCD website regarding your hours of operation and closures? With respect to the CDFW reviews, how many are backed up? How many were done in the old contract funding source? And how much will the new contract be? And how many reviews will that cover? With respect to the fee hearing that's coming up, notice that you projected 100 appeals. Where did that come from? And how did you determine the number of hours per person listed in your budget for those? And in the Acela contract coming up, noticed GIS and scoring modules. Could you talk about those? And is the CEQA certification specific to our weird checklist rather than pre-project approval? And can you do the referrals to outside agencies like the DAs concurrently? Thank you.
Okay, that is some serious rapid fire questions. See if I might have to come back to you and ask for clarification as we pick through these. We will post the following affidavit just as soon as we have it. So County Council is crafting that based on what's in the ordinance and what they think is going to be necessary to be in that affidavit. So just as soon as we have it, we will update it. And yes, we will update the hours on our website. I'm hoping that Trish has some time today. Sorry to call you out, Trish, or put you on the spot. But there are a few things that need to be updated on that website. So she's been taking on the responsibility of assisting us with those updates. So we've got quite a bit on the website update list to work on today and probably early next week. I have no way of tracking currently how many DFW reviews we've actually conducted, how many happen pre-contract, how many are happening after contract. I have no invoice, so I have no way of knowing how much they're costing roughly per review, how much they're going to cost in the future, how much the next contract is going to be, how many referrals we anticipate in the next contract. So I can't really elaborate on any of those questions, right? Because without an invoice, I have no way of knowing how much these referrals to DFW cost in general. I can't create a cost estimate. I have none of that information. So you can try to ask us that question after the new year when we have invoices, and then maybe we'll be able to give some average ballpark. But until I get more information from DFW, I have no ability to respond to those questions with anything meaningful. Appeal justification. So yeah, the background in how we determined the appeal cost is we really looked to other departments that have appeal programs. So for example, we primarily looked at planning and building and code enforcement. So planning and building has an administrative appeals program, which is more extensive in the sense that those appeals go to Planning Commission and or potentially, depending on the circumstance, the Board of Supervisors. So we modeled our appeal cost after planning and buildings minus the activities of going to, say, a hearing body such as the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors. So the internal review time and the crafting of a report in preparation for an appeal meeting, which we scheduled, I believe, 30 minutes in that justification to meet with the applicant and potentially their agent. So we really modeled it after that section of it, after what's in planning and building's time estimates for their administrative hearing and preparing to go to the Board of Supervisors of the Planning Commission. As far as the hearing officer portion, we modeled the time and the expense associated with going to a hearing officer after the code enforcement time justification for sending appeal of a violation to a hearing officer. So that's what we used for our baseline. As we move into Acela and we have some time tracking tools, we'll put some time tracking tools in place on it and just make sure that we didn't underestimate or overestimate the time that's associated with appeals. But for now, that is the best we could do. We need to have justifications to bring a fee hearing forward. And so it is common practice to, with a new fee, model after other agencies that have similar fees in place. So that's exactly what we did. The Acela contract, yeah, it does have a GIS component, and it does have, I might need to ask a question about the scoring part of this, but the GIS component is that Acela allows us to plug into our PBS1 mapping system. So this is helpful for the sake of inspections. So when we put an address into, say, the tablet, so we'll be moving to an electronic inspection system. So we'll be ditching paper after we get Acela fully up and implemented. So let's start from the beginning. One of the things that Acela will do is it will allow for applicants to request inspection. So maybe you need a renewal inspection or you need a pre-issuance inspection, whatever it may be. In the future under Acela, you'll be able to request an inspection date and timeline. And then, so we'll be taking that information in and we'll also be generating inspection timelines internally and then notifying the applicant and the permit holder as we currently do. The tablets, think iPad or Android tablet, will allow the inspector to open up the applicant or permit holder's information on that tablet. So it will download ahead of time and the information associated with that application so that it's available in the field. And then it will have cellular connectivity. So one of the things that it also will download is a map to that site because it will connect with our county's PBS1 GIS system. So they put in the AG number if we're going to a cultivation site, and then the files associated in Acela with that site will be available via that electronic tablet for the duration of that inspector being in the field, whether they have connectivity or not. And it will download a map to that location that will stay fixed on the tablet for the duration of the trip to and from that, that inspection. So that's really the GIS platform, is that it allows us to plug into the GIS system for inspections, but it also allows us to plug into the GIS system. So for example, we can pre-program phase 3 applications to exclude zoning that's not allowed under phase 3 applications, such as rangeland, forest preserve, and timber production lands. So if you're applying for a phase 3 application through Acela and you put in your APN number, the connectivity to the GIS system will register in the Acela platform what your zoning is and what your parcel size is, and there will be a pre-baked program, so to speak, to review whether or not that parcel is eligible potentially for a phase 3 application. So that's kind of the really short overview of how the GIS features are supposed to work in Acela, right? It will help us do some pre-screening of applicable zoning locations, and then also be an assistance with getting us to and from sites in the field. Hannah, will you unmute really quick and ask me the question about the scoring? You went too quick, and then I understand why you went quickly. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't write as fast as you were chatting. So, ask me the scoring question, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if the scoring was about applications, meaning cultivation permit applications, or was that only linked to the grant scoring as intended in the LJAGP proposal, for example? And then there was the CEQA and then the simultaneous referral questions.
Yeah, so ask me the CEQA question.
Sure, the CEQA was whether or not the UC Santa Barbara certification is specific to our, what I'm going to call weird CEQA situation, the after the fact checklist, rather than pre-project CEQA.
Okay, got that. And then the simultaneous referrals.
Yes, DA, CDFW, etc. If there are going to be simultaneous referrals.
Yes. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so wrapping this round of questions up so we can go into the next. I'm not familiar with a scoring system baked into Acela. We do believe that we'll, in the future, potentially use Acela for some grant applications. There is that possibility there. We're also looking at a different platform for grant applications. We are not looking at scoring, so to speak, commercial cannabis applications, but the LJAGP grant application itself will have some baked in scoring, so it will help us prioritize awarding grant checks to folks who submit through LJAGP. And I don't think there's any CEQA course that is specific to the Appendix G checklist or a checklist system. However, the certification course is broad and it's robust, and it does lay a really fabulous framework and groundwork for CEQA, how the regulations work, how to conduct an initial study, how to prepare an MND, and how to work with, say, a prepared MND and review an application against it. So it is going to be incredibly beneficial. And really, we're looking at this as a foundational course to help our planners really understand the foundational components to CEQA, which I think will create a significant amount of ease for them and consistency when we turn to the Appendix G checklist. And we'll also be doing training specific to those Appendix G checklists, but we'll be focusing on that training after our planners have completed the CEQA certification course. And yeah, there's no reason to not conduct simultaneous referrals. So that is what I have there. Let's see, we're going to go on to Katie Jean, followed by Paul Hansberry, and then Chantal. So Katie Jean, you should be able to unmute your device and ask your question or your comment.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I have a question around deprioritization. I received a deprioritization in October 24th, and I don't have a state license, and I've had the same state license for 5 years. It has never expired. I sent you guys a copy of it on August 1st with my renewal. And I've sent out a couple of emails wondering when this can get my sorry, I can't say that word well, deprioritization can get cleared. And I'm just curious if you have an answer of when you guys will have, when you'll have time to look at that. Thank you.
All right, so we do have staff assigned to the reprioritization review. So we have specific staff members that are managing the review. So Katie Jean, I'll check in with staff today in your specific instance just to see why you haven't received a notice. So I'll look into that today, and then we'll circle back with you specifically. But the process does take generally 14 days or so between the time that you send your materials. So if you sent stuff in August, it's been quite a while and we should have gotten back to you. So either we missed notifying you or something happened in that communication. So I'll circle back with you, or have staff circle back with you today about this. Okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're going to go to Paul Hansberry, followed by Chantal, and then Tamara. Paul, you should be able to go ahead and unmute your device and ask your question or comment.
Hi, yes, good morning. With regards to the meetings, as I understand it, you're going to be regularly having these meetings on the first Friday of every month. I know we just got notification yesterday about this meeting, and it's nice to be able to schedule. The second thing is there a fee for noticing a fallow, or is there a fee or a cost connected with withdrawing your notification of fallowing? And thirdly, it seems, I'm sure you have your reasons, and I'm sure they're very good ones, but we don't understand, or at least I don't understand, why you're going to a two-step process for the review of the Appendix Gs. I'm sure that there are some that are more complicated than others, but if the staff is trained, they should be able to do, when they're reviewing for completeness, be able to see some that are maybe a slam dunk and wouldn't have to be, they could be reviewed and approved immediately, or sent back because for deficiencies, and notified to the applicant.
Okay, let's move through these questions quickly. So we actually notified today's meeting several months ago, and we had notified today's meeting as an LJAGP application review meeting. We did change the agenda simply because the board has not moved forward, or we didn't get the LJAGP direct grant manual on the board agenda until the 6th of December. So it seemed cart before the horse to talk about an application for a program that had not yet been approved by the board. So this was supposed to be the LJAGP meeting this week, which was going to be the first, what we were going to use as the first meeting in the month of December to cover those materials. Since we, as I mentioned, could not cover LJAGP this week, this first meeting in the month of December, which is now a regularly scheduled first Friday meeting, we added a second meeting so we could still walk through LJAGP. So probably too many words for that response. I apologize. There is no fee for fallowing. There's no fee for filing a notice of fallowing. There's no fee for filing an affidavit. There's no fee for retracting. So no fees associated with fallowing. Two-step process for Appendix G. We aren't moving into that process. We have always used this process. And the beauty of this process is it allows administrative staff, without having the initial submission go to a planner, review the materials to ensure that we are not holding on to and assigning materials for review that are not properly formatted, or perhaps incomplete, or don't have the supplemental materials, or don't have the table of contents on the supplemental materials. So this administrative review is done by front of the house staff, so to speak, and not always conducted by a planner. And it allows us to make sure that when we do assign, the planner can actually conduct the review and not spend a bunch of time going back and forth with the submitter of that Appendix G about formatting, and there's no project description, and you checked no on some of these boxes, right? So, and you signed where the planning staff would sign, right? These are all things that we can do outside of planning staff needs. So I think it's really important, and then it does ensure that when it's assigned, it is a document that's complete and applicable or ready to be reviewed. So we're going to stick with that plan. And we are going to go ahead and go to Chantal, followed by Tamara. We only have about 10 minutes left, so I don't anticipate that we will have time to go to a speaker after Tamara. So Chantal, I'm going to go ahead and, yep, you've got it.
I'm ready. Thanks. Good morning. So I'm going to read my question that I put into the chat regarding the CEQA and DCC conversation. I'll just read what I typed and then I'll go off of that from there. Is the DCC in clear agreement that your proposed approach will satisfy their requirement? How often is the MCD in conversation with the DCC regarding this issue? And when was the last meeting? Please be more transparent regarding this issue. Your comments on it have evolved Friday meeting by Friday meeting, and I feel less confident in the MCD approach than I did prior. Last meeting, you implied that the MCD role was to deem the submission complete by the renewal date, if after 7/1/23. This week, it sounds slightly adjusted from that, as if your approach is not yet confirmed as acceptable by the DCC. So I put that in written version, and I'm just going to use my last couple of seconds to say, I understand the two-step process from the administrative perspective, and I hear you saying that it is your approach, and I understand from the regulations that it sounds like it would be effective, but how you spoke about it today seemed to open up a little bit of a window that the DCC was not yet in agreement with the.
All right, so we're going to respond to these questions and then move on to our last caller so we can ensure time. So the DCC has not put into writing a confirmation that they are what they are going to, how they're going to define complete. I am pretty confident that we're going to be able to move forward in the manner that I've discussed, but I don't have that in writing. I meet with the DCC a couple times a month and will continue to meet. And so I've clearly outlined our approach for them, how we manage this two-step process, why we do it in this two-step way, how it is efficient for the department to do it in this manner. You know, I find that it's a little hard. It's kind of a lot hard to get the DCC to put protocols in writing, especially ahead of time. But the language in statute clearly says complete. And when we conduct this administrative review, we're saying that we've received a complete submission so that we can now review it. So there's nowhere in statute that requires that Appendix G checklist to have been certified by the agency. It really clearly says in Business and Professions Code that it needs to be complete. And so this is the conversation. I have had zero indication from DCC that that is not going to be, that they aren't going to honor this request to have complete, mean that the paperwork's complete. So I do have confidence that we'll be hearing from them as we get closer to that, hopefully early in 2023, but it's definitely as we get closer to the July 1st deadline. That complete means that it's complete. It does not mean that it's certified. And I don't know how I can be more transparent, right? I mean, I'm telling you guys on a regular basis, everyone who attends these meetings, about the conversations we're having. I'm telling you about what we're negotiating right now. I'm telling you about the processes that we're using internally. So I think that there may be some confusion over the difference in a definition of transparency and what's unknown. So there's really no way for the department to be more transparent than to continue to provide updates on this item. So we will be going to Tamara next. So Tamara, you should be able to unmute. You lowered your hand. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to a few of the questions in the Q&A feature. So some questions about, I think, provisional license renewals. So what does not in compliance with any DFW LSAA condition mean? CDFW doesn't provide deficiency information on LSAAs, and deadlines are often not realistic. And DFW can take months or a year or more to process an amendment to change project dates or provide an applicant with an LSAA extension. So how strong do I expect this non-compliance enforcement to be? I mean, that's like asking me to have a crystal ball, which I don't have. I mean, I appreciate the questions, but I can't speak for DFW and I can't speak for the Department of Cannabis Control. And this information that I presented today in the slides is out of statute. It's out of, you can find it in Business and Profession Code. If you look in the renewal section, which I want to say is like, well, I'm not even going to try to memorize it or spit it out right now. But if you look in the licensing section, it is in the licensing section of Business and Profession Codes for cannabis. So I don't know, and I don't know if DFW and DCC know how that communication is going to work yet, right? So I can't necessarily respond to that. I do know if you have a final LSAA and you're completing projects, you're supposed to document those projects and then report that you've completed those projects. So creating a way that you can verify with Department of Fish and Wildlife that you've completed any projects in your LSAA is going to be really important. So as you're doing that work, please document it. And make sure that you have some paperwork, some photos, whatever might be most appropriate to move forward with getting this information into CDFW so they can provide an affirmative response to DCC that you've met your compliance. And then a quick second follow-up question about DFW before we go back to Tamara. I see your hand raised there. So we'll come back to you, Tamara, in just a moment. So what is my current understanding of the no notification required streamlined pathway that is in discussion at DFW? This would apply specifically to simple projects that had op laws that are expiring in 2023 and had no actual project. We have not had this conversation with DFW. So there's two different things. There's no notification required, and then there's op law letters. Those can be really different. And, op law letters just mean that they didn't get to your notification before the deadline, so they had to issue an operation of law letter. And no notification required means that they actually reviewed your notification and determined that a lake or streambed alteration agreement was not required for your project. So those are two different pieces here. Op law letters, as they are expiring, are going to have some sort of process required by DFW to either move into a lake or streambed alteration agreement or potentially a no notification required or no LSAA required piece. So I know that DFW has been working on how to manage op laws as they're expiring, but I don't have that pathway or know how they're going to handle it as an agency currently. So don't want to get out in front of them on this one because I really don't know exactly what their plan is yet. We haven't been briefed on that. We did that one. Let's see. We did that one. Okay. Okay, so Tamara, you should be able to unmute your device and ask your question or your comment.
Hi, yeah, please excuse me. I've been busy running the farm and I haven't been able to attend any of these meetings. Can you please explain to me why the good standing portal was open? Did you guys lose all the paperwork or was there a need for why are people needing to reapply for maybe a third time?
Is that all for your questions?
That's it.
Okay, great. I will happily explain that. Okay, so in good standing portal, Folks were applicants had an opportunity through the correction letter program ran by previous leadership in the year of 2020 that kind of overlapped into early 2021. Planning staff sent to a lot of our applicants, not everyone, but a good portion of the applicants on the application list, correction letters, requesting that they submit corrected material or complete application materials to the department. Those materials were sent in by applicants largely via email. And when management started the corrections letter program, they did not put into place a protocol for reviewing any of the materials that applicants sent into the department or at that time into the program at PBS. There was no protocol put in place about how to manage those materials. Staff was actually told not to worry about reviewing the materials that applicants sent, but there was also no file management protocols put into place. So every planner working for the program at that time managed the materials in a different way. And there really wasn't consistency. So fast forward to me joining the county in March of 2021, there was pretty much the correction letters program had been wrapped up. There were a few people that our planners were still working on and working with who had turned in materials and were getting into that in good standing place as we move forward to looking at the 2021 and 2022 portals. And so when we got through the portal program in 2022, the initial portal program, I said to the planners, all right, let's start rounding up these materials for folks who are in good standing and getting these applications moving forward. And planning staff who had been here during the correction letter program said, well, that material is not really anywhere specifically. And so it became apparent to us that the only way we would be able to compile the materials that had been received during the corrections letter program would be to forensically reconstruct what was sent in by doing email searches and folder searches in our main shared folder system. That actually seemed like it was going to take a heck of a lot more time than just asking these applicants to come through a portal. And then we had a series of meetings in the fall leading up to the November 1st portal discussing how to do this, right? And disclosing that we really didn't have in good standing filing, right? Because previous leadership had not put that protocol in place when you all were sending your materials in. And I'm terribly sorry about that, but we do have this portal application system. And for us, it was really the path forward to streamlining getting these materials to try to ensure that we can meet the state deadlines for issuance and making sure that people can qualify for those renewals. So what I feel like department staff here heard during meetings where we came to the public and we just said, you know, these are our options. This is what we're playing with. We're not sure how to proceed. Folks who responded to those questions in the discussion period overwhelmingly supported having folks come through the portal. So it really was the tool or the resource we had to best streamline this. Tamara, I'll come back to you right now, and then we are going to have to close the meeting. We're a little bit over. So quick additional comment, Tamara.
Yeah, so two things, and they're related to the portal. So is there going to be a way that we're going to know that you guys actually received it, and how can we ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, so you are going to know that we received it because when we receive it, we're reviewing it, and then we're going to send you a notification about whether or not it has been deemed a complete application or there's still items outstanding that we're going to recommend that you correct through the same portal. So you'll get a notification once we conduct the review. It's not going to happen again because we're moving into a CELA. And just like you use Acela for your state licensing system. You upload your documents. It's all in there. We use it. We're going to use it on the back end, just like the state, as our project management. So everything you put in will go into the same platform that we're using to review applications. So, we've been using, and the program historically has used, what's called Track It. It doesn't have an adequate or robust online application system. So the only way the department and previous iterations of the department of the program has had for receiving materials really largely has been email and or paper copies, which has made it really hard to manage materials. So we're fully, once Acela's up, there's not going to be anything coming in via email. I mean, maybe small little bits and pieces as you're engaged in review and the planner asks you for some sort of clarifying point or comment. But just like with your state applications, you will be uploading your materials, 100% of your materials, into your Acela portal. So, and then the really great thing about the portal system that we have right now, it's not as user-friendly as the Acela portal is for the public-facing portion, but similar to the Acela portal, when folks use the in good standing portal, it automatically names all of your documents. It timestamps your submission. It captures the login user's account information, whatever's entered for the applicant's contact information, and whatever's entered for an agent's information. So we get a heck of a lot of information, and then all of that information and all of those files that are automatically named according to the department's naming convention show up in a folder in our share folder system. And it's all incredibly organized. And so everyone who's ever used the MC portal, whether it's in 2021, 2022, or the in good standing portal, we have in a master filing system internally. And as we move to Acela, that master filing system will upload your files into each of the applicants' Acela account. So it's going to really create this streamlined way for us to capture information. And then we've been spending a heck of a lot of time making sure that the information we have coming in is organized and ready to do this transfer into Acela, where it will be housed and not subject to emails and back and forth and who put it where. It'll all go right into the permit review platform. So this is how we're proceeding forward in an effort to ensure that files are no longer getting lost, that they remain digitized, that there's easy access for both the applicant to see what they've uploaded and for the department to see what's been uploaded and to receive notifications that something's been uploaded, and then to conduct reviews, assign reviews, look at how long reviews are taking, et cetera. So I really do think this is going to be a solution that probably would have been better to have implemented some time ago. But here we are now, and we're going to move forward with it. So that's my response there. And I realize there's still questions in the Q&A feature. However, we are out of time, and I apologize for keeping folks over by 7 minutes. But thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you all have a fabulous weekend. And we will be meeting next Friday from 8:30 to 10 to discuss the Local Jurisdiction Assistance Grant Program direct grant application. So take care, everyone. Stay warm out there.